Alright, so now that we've seen a little bit about working with radio buttons, and what we saw in that last video was the fact that you really only had one option to choose from in a radio box scenario. However, there are other things that we can do. So for example, when I switch back to where we are right here inside of our text editor one more time, let's look at some of the other options. And what if you had more than one choice? We would be using something like a checkbox. So remember, checkboxes are used when you want the user to select one or more options of a limited number of choices. So again, we have our form. Let's write in something a little bit more indicative of some of the choices, right? So you could say something like, I like, let's say, oranges. We're asking our end user exactly what kind of fruit they like, let's say, for example. And in the type area here, we're going to define not a radio box this time, but rather a checkbox. Once we've got the checkbox in place, we're going to say, well, what's the name here? Well, all of these things are going to be related to, well, let's say fruit and what kind of fruit people like. So the value of this particular one that I'm going to say here is oranges. Now, once we've indicated that we have our oranges in place, I don't really need this male from the last one. Notice I do still have a BR tag. I just want to, separate these logically with a simple line break. Well, what about somebody who doesn't like oranges? Perhaps they like something else. So I'll say, I like kiwi. And in here, we will, again, here I'll just double click this and we'll copy that. Command or Control C, Command Control V to paste that in. And again, we're going to say that the name of this entire checkbox area here is defined as fruit, and the value will be kiwi. All right, and this thing probably needs, since I'm going to introduce 3 of these, I'm also going to say BR, and we'll separate this in this fashion. And then I will just come in here with my last one, and I'll say I like apples. Now, since we don't have the input that we had at the last point, I'm just going to copy this. We're going to put it in here, Control C or Command C, depending on your platform, and Command V or Control V if you're on a Mac or a PC. And as you can see, we've got the checkbox again. The name has been defined as fruit, and the value here will be apples. Or just apple should be fine, I guess. We don't really need a BR at the end here, but eventually we'll introduce things when we need them as we go along. So as you can see, it's time for us to file save our file, and we're just going to switch on over to Firefox as we saw before and check it out. Now we have some simple messages. I like oranges, I like kiwi, I like apples. And what you'll be able to see is that the person on the other end of your HTML page, when they're online, can choose one or none of these as they go along. So it's a great little form element that we've introduced here to our particular form. It allows us for multiple or varied choices, and it will oftentimes be a great way for you to gain insightful information about your end users. So that's a little bit more about working with checkboxes.